If you're planning to move to Serbia with children, one of the underlying questions that I get specifically is, what about education? What about schooling? Do we have to enroll them into public education? What about public or private schooling? And what about homeschooling and online options? And today in this video, we're going to cover the three sections. And in this video, my goal is to help you understand what options are available for your children, and then you understand what you're looking at when you do move to Serbia and what you do with the education side so that you're not left in the dark. Now, moving to another country, especially Serbia, I can understand how parents are kind of hesitant when it comes to children. It's already difficult enough just moving yourself or your spouse, but when you have to bring little ones that are in the education system, now they may be just toddlers and not even yet enrolled in school, or you could have someone that's already 9, 10 years old and that has been accustomed to the American style of education. You have homeschooled your children, you have them in private education, and you really don't want to disturb their way of learning and what they've been brought up on already, which is absolutely understandable. And the idea is not to disturb them and to add more confusion in their lives, especially since they're already going to be moving into another country and now having that extra layer of problems of now finding new friends, learning a new language. And when it comes to education, some parents want to educate their kids in a certain way, and that is completely understandable. I know myself, my wife, she does homeschooling for children that are in actually all around the world. And so this is something that is very popular, especially when it comes to Canadian, American, Australian, and other parts of Europe. They like to do homeschooling. And so that is something that is the number one question, which I will talk about later in this video. But let's start off with the first and the obvious way of getting your kids into the education system. So number one is enrolling your children into public education. And so, of course, if you're coming here and you're getting temporary residency or Serbian citizenship by descent or merit and wanting to live here, you can absolutely enroll your children in the public education system. Now, one of the things that you have to understand is when you do enroll your children in the public education system here, that the public education is done in the Serbian language. And so if you have a child that is just going into school and has no previous experience in schooling, that might be the easiest option, because then they can start learning the basics when it comes to the Serbian language. However, if you have someone that is 9, 10 years old and is already adapted in a different language, that may add some complexity and actually hinder the child, because they may feel uncomfortable going into the public education system, not understanding this the language, but also not being familiar with any of the other students there and learning the way of life and interacting with other children. Now, what are children taught in public education? Well, typically they're taught the same as any other education system. Now, mind you, the education system in North America is failing at a large rate. They're teaching kids things that they absolutely don't need to know, such as pronouns and all this other nonsense when it comes to woke culture. And so more and more parents are looking to remove their children out of the public education system and putting them into private or even homeschooling their children as well. And so what are students taught here is they're taught science, mathematics, literature, history, and are in a structured learning environment. However, one of the things that you have to acknowledge is that many of the public education systems all around the world are not keeping up with the current pace of what we are experiencing in our day-to-day lives, right? They're not learning about technology. They're not learning about proper history. They're not learning how to manage a bank account or do their taxes or any of that type of stuff. And at the most part, the way I look at things is the education system all around the world is essentially creating worker bees, because kids are in school from, call it 8 a.m. till 3 o'clock in the afternoon, 2 breaks and a lunch, and that's typically what an employee does these days. And we are far from having a good economy in many countries, and a lot of these countries do not have many opportunities when it comes to good paying jobs or even job availability. And so parents are like, well, we don't want to do that to our children. Children don't need to be in classrooms for 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, asking to go to the bathroom, things of that nature, to be conditioned to be good employees, which I kind of am on par with that with a lot of the parents that we speak to. Which brings me then to the second portion, which is the private education system here. So there are a lot of private schools here in Serbia. You have some in Novi Sad, you have many in Belgrade, and even down in Niš. Now, if you're looking to live out in the country somewhere and or outside of these bigger cities, you are not going to have the availability of private schools, which is going to then result you only to signing them up into the public education system, or potentially doing some sort of online education, homeschooling, whatever it might be. Now, the benefits of the private schools here in Serbia is that, one, they are smaller class sizes, bilingual education. Some of them and many of them are also taught in certain language, so English, Chinese, whatever it might be. And there are also internationally recognized schools here as well, which is a beautiful thing, especially if you're not planning on living here for a long period of time. Maybe you're looking at spending 6 months of the year here in Serbia, the other 6 months in another country, whatever it might be. You may want to just put them in a private education school rather than a public education system as well. Now, the international curriculums do follow British curriculum, IB programs, and American-styled education, which is something that a lot of our foreign clients look at. The only caveat to that is the pricing when it comes to what it's going to cost per student. So depending on the age, what school they're signing up to, you will be looking at anywhere between 3,000 and 15,000 euros per child per semester. And so if you're like, well, that's a lot of money, especially if you have 2, 3 children, that can start eating up a lot of the budget, especially if you are on a tight budget moving to another country. And moving to another country is not cheap to begin with. But again, what our clients are enjoying about the private education system is that most of them are English language education. There's a smoother transition between countries, and they are getting internationally recognized diplomas, which is what is the end goal for many of the parents and for their children. Now, if you're not looking to do anything with the public education system or the private education system, now you do have a third option. However, there are many things that we have to look at when it comes to how do we get them recognized as doing that education here in Serbia, and that is called International or Alternative Education Pass. And so what you're looking at is enrolling them into an international distant education school or for an online school. What you have to understand is there are a number of fees and government documentations or government documents that we have to obtain to submit to Serbia here so that they understand that your child is enrolled in another school. And once we pass that process, then it's up to you how your child studies. So that is either going to be from home, which is essentially homeschooling, through online classes, through structured curriculum materials, or even sometimes private tutors. And that's exactly what a lot of our clients are looking to do. And if you're looking to do homeschooling, there is not a very large community here, but of course, that's why the parent is there. There are people that we can put you in contact that can help you with that, either teach you how to homeschool your child, or you enroll them in a homeschooling online platform, or whatever that next option might be that you're looking for. Because when it comes to this type of customized education, every parent wants their child to be taught a certain way, taught certain subjects, especially when it comes to inquiry-based learning, which I find that a lot of students do better with, because they're actually learning about something that they're interested in. And at the same time, the way these curriculums are designed is to still stay in line with those international schools or online schools in order to either get their GED or some sort of diploma in the end. But what you have to understand is that Serbia has compulsory education requirements, which means that children are expected to be enrolled in a recognized education program. And so what you have to do is not just be able to enroll them in any online school or any international school, but it actually has to be recognized here in Serbia. And so there are several factors that include finding that accreditation of the school, the curriculum used, and the documentation that we provide, so that the Serbian education system understands and accepts those documents. And that's something that we can help you with here at Relocation Serbia. And there are, of course, some fees that are needing to be paid in order to be enrolled in these schools, but we can always guide you through these processes. You can always book in a consultation with us, and we can kind of run through everything, what you're required to do when and if you do move to Serbia. But in the end, the good news is that Serbia does offer flexible education programs, more than what people are finding on the internet, and so that your children is not just left in the dark. And so if you're interested in doing any sort of relocation here to Serbia, we can help you make those good decisions and get you the correct information and carefully planning these steps for your child's education. And if you'd like any planning when it comes to moving to Serbia with your children, feel free to reach out to us. We'd be happy to help you understand what options are available and look at your case specifically, because when it comes to education and your children, it's not a one size fits all.